because no one cares about all the other stuff. Like, yeah, maybe you went here, maybe you did this. That's all nice and good, but that doesn't tell anybody what you're doing and why. And that's kind of what happens. But if you're a small business, it's the biggest thing for you to do is to get that first customer. Because once you have that first customer, you will get a second one. And once you have two, you'll start having some more, and you'll be able to start rolling along a little better and get some idea how you can start hiring people, even if it's temporarily, or outsource them or whatever you want to do. And then it just kind of grows in its own way. And it may plateau too. A lot of times people get frustrated because they're like, well, I'm not making any more money. It's like, it's not about making more money every day. It's about growing your business in a way that makes sense for you and for your future. And if you grow too fast, you're not going to have the mechanisms in place to support that structure. Obviously, they don't want to grow too slow, but you reach a point where you're getting enough inbound revenue and everything kind of makes sense, and you're good, and you can actually now sit here and say, okay, now that we got this, what can we do to get bigger? How can we get bigger customers? Sometimes I help people just by changing the wording in their website or their social media. It makes a big difference when someone thinks you're one person or three people versus thinking, oh, maybe they're 10 to 20 people. And it makes a big difference in who those customers are, because they come to you and they want to be handheld and they want to know you love them and all that fun stuff. But they also need to think you're big enough to accommodate them. And that's a big aspect of growing your business.
So if you're a small company, maybe you're like a one person who has a great skill and you're offering that up and you want to get the word out there. Should you make all of the wording and all on your website and all of your marketing seem as though you are several people?
Well, you don't want to lie and say we have a team of 20 when it's just you, right?
Right.
But
Right.
there's certain words that people use, and they don't think about it unconsciously as they're using it in their text, and it basically sounds and makes it feel like it's just you, right? So it's just certain terms and staying away from things so you can kind of push stuff up and say, no, we, as the company, we work with people in this and this and this. We're not saying I, we're saying we. I mean, even when I started out, I had people I worked with who did things I didn't do, right? I'm not an SEO person, but I have friends who are SEO people. I'm not an ad person, but I have friends who are big Facebook ad people, big LinkedIn ad people. So if I needed that or the customer asked me for it, I say, great, I have someone you can work with here, you. And so it is we, right? But people don't think of it that way because they're just like, oh, it's still just me. It's like, no, it is all of us, and we're doing things. And so it becomes a little bit of a lexicon kind of dictionary type thing where you're like, how do we make this sound like we understand people, right? Because it's not so much also about saying it's me or you. It's also about the customer who comes to our website or to our social media posts and says, do they understand me as a big customer? Do they get what I need? Do they understand it? And secondarily, they'll then try and find out more about you. So sometimes it is about just using the right terms so that they know you get who they are. If you ever look at a SaaS offering, right, the SaaS companies tend to have 3 offerings and then call us, right? Free, some kind of free or freemium, a lower thing, and some middle or high thing, and then always call us, right? Because they know there are people who are smaller who don't need all the bigger stuff. There are people who are bigger and need things, and there are people who are huge, and none of this matters because they're going to say, we want to do this, this, and this. How much is it, right? And that's the same thing for your business. You have to have that from the start so that people know you understand the different levels in business.
Excellent. Yeah, that's great advice. So I know that when you're forming your business, it's important to understand your competition. So a lot of people understand like researching your competition, but they may not understand the depth of competitive intelligence. And I'd love for you to break that down today.
Okay, so this is this is a little harder to explain, I think, sometimes when you're small, right? Because when you're first starting out, everybody's a customer, right? And everybody's a competitor, right? Because anything is a competitor. You're just like, I need to make money. I don't care. I'll do anything. And then eventually you have that first customer and you're like, okay, now I kind of get an idea why I don't want to do certain things or why I do want to do certain things. Or maybe who you want to work for or you don't want to work for, right? Like you came from a military background, so most likely you're okay if you were working with a government entity, right? But
Mhm.
there's a lot of people who are afraid to talk to governments and work with governments, right? I mean, I am over my career, I've pitched people at NATO. I've worked at nuclear sites. I've been in different army sites, all kinds of places. So like, but I don't have your background, so I had to kind of work with them in the best way I can at a business level while maintaining the fact that, okay, they have certain, reasons to do things. So competitive intelligence comes in even when you're trying to pitch people, right? Like if I wanted to go, let's say I want to go to my local bank who does horrible swag, and I'm a swag dealer, right? I'm like, okay, I'm going to go to my local bank and say, hey, you guys make some of the worst swag. I know you get it from corporate, but I know you have some local money and you can do stuff local in the community. And I'm a local swag person, and so you want to kind of understand how that works. And some people, when they start out, they don't even know what they don't know, right?
Mhm.
So like I know, and because we were both in corporate, there's a whole thing, top down, swag comes from corporate somewhere, blah, 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 right? But the average person just walks into some place and says, hey, why don't you buy this? And that doesn't work, right? Because you don't understand the process. You don't understand the mechanisms. You don't know about it. So when you're a startup, competitive intelligence is more about the how to and the who to rather than purely the competitor. Um, when you get a little bigger and you start having more customers, you start finding out who your competitors are because they start coming after you. They'll start, asking who you are. They'll meet you at networking events, and you'll start being followed, so to speak.
Oh,
And then you want to basically start thinking about it and say, okay, well, these guys, are they afraid of me? Do they want to work with me? What can we do with them? Should we do something with them? And you want to basically figure out what that best direction is. Sorry, it's not always obvious, but the information you get from them is helpful. Sometimes they're going to be like, "Oh, we work with Disney, so you shouldn't waste your time talking to Disney." It's like, okay, well, that's good to know because if you wanted to sell into Disney, you might want to partner with them and sell into Disney. But at the same time, they may decide, we don't want to do that. And when you get a little bigger, you start talking about pricing as competitive, right? Am I pricing this too low, too high, right? Is there value? Is there no value? Is the competitor doing it? And how are they doing it? Who are they doing it for? And you keep going with that. And competitive intelligence you don't usually hire a CI person initially. Usually your product marketer becomes your CI person. They start out and they said, okay, we're responsible for product marketing. And we look at what the competitor does and how we do it and how we want to do it for them. And then eventually, when you get big enough, you actually hire a CI person dedicated just for this purpose because they're going to tell you when that company gets funded, when they've let people go, when they've got new pricing, new products, all that kind of stuff, which as an executive or a salesperson, you don't always stay on top of all that stuff. And it is a lot of stuff, right? And people think, oh, I'll set up a Google search and I'll set up this and it'll tell me stuff. And you're just going to ignore it like all the other emails that you don't care about. So if you're just going to basically stop, so if there's no purpose and focus, you're not getting there. Um, Most common thing people ask about CI is always like price. People want to know what are people charging, and I'm like, I don't care because price is a value. If you're not pricing a value, then you're Walmart, and if you're Walmart, great, sell 10 million of something to make 10 cents each, and good luck to you. Or you can be like Tiffany, and just because you put in a nice blue box and charge 250 times what it costs, people are happy to pay for it. So value is everything in pricing.
So find a
I kind of hit
person
on a lot
or
of stuff. So
no, no, well, I'm going to
sorry.
find something to latch onto and bring some value myself. So, what I was thinking of is finding someone who has the skill set and offers enough value to help you really thoroughly research your competition, because we understand like basic a competitive analysis, like where you see who all your competition is in the space and you really kind of research what they're offering and how they're doing things, and then you find a way to just do it a bit better or offer it for a better price or whatever. But
Sometimes.
competitive and intelligence seems so much deeper. Like it's almost like you're really studying your competition and knowing all of their movements so that you can really know how to move to create the most value for your organization.
Exactly. I mean, the CI, the term competitive intelligence, of course, came out of the military
Hmm.
because you need to know, what the other side is doing. You've got spies, which different variations of spies in the CI world,
Hmm.
but you need to get information. You need to dig in. You need to understand, why are they doing this? Why are they going there? Why are they selling into this place? Why are they not selling into this place? Also is important, right? One of the things that I remember saying to a bunch of IBM executives when I worked at IBM was, "You're IBM, you have tons of data, right? But if you're not interpreting that data correctly, then what's it matter? Because if you interpret the data wrong, you're now leading your entire company down the wrong path. Just looking at that data means a lot. Why does someone sell to company A but not company B when they look like the same companies, right? Like, bank
Hmm.
A, bank B. It's a bank. What's the difference? There's a lot of difference. Some banks are privately owned. Some banks are massive conglomerates. Some banks are local. Some banks are national. Some banks are worldwide. And how they're made up and who funds them and who they work with, even, banks don't even want to deal with consumers anymore. It's very hard to find a bank that actually wants to be a consumer bank, because they want all the big corporate money. They want all the big trust money. They don't really care about the individuals anymore. So there's lots of reason why people do things or don't do things. And sometimes knowing that difference is what helps your business go somewhere. Because you sit there and you say, oh, well, they're not going to that bank. Maybe I should go to that bank and offer what I've got, because A, I don't know the difference yet, so I have nothing to lose. Or B, I don't want to work with the other bank and they don't want to work with this bank. So it's a win-win for both of us. Right. So all that stuff kind of gets pieced together over time, and you kind of need to babysit it. You can't just kind of look at it and then forget about it for a few months, because stuff changes, companies change, business changes, the market changes, world stuff change, and you want to be able to capitalize when those opportunities happen. And that's really what the CI's person's job is, to find those moments that make a difference for you so you can jump on them.
And that's all the difference of making that money, right? Like
Yeah,
how much you're going to make is just having that little bit of intel that can help you make the decisions that grow you exponentially.
that's